Federal prosecutors indicted Mayor Eric Adams on 5 criminal charges yesterday, including conspiracy, wire fraud, and illegal campaign contributions by foreign nationals.
So Mayor Adams has denied the charges, and while many lawmakers are calling on him to resign, the mayor says he intends to stay and serve his full term in office. If he steps down or is removed from office, which only Governor Kathy Hochul can do, New York City public advocate Jumaane Williams will become the acting mayor. Jumaane Williams is the public advocate, as you know. He's joining us this morning. Nice to have you back on Good Day New York.
Good to be here, thanks.
So should the mayor stay or should he go?
Well, I think, first of all, it's a really sad time for the people of the city of New York. It's a kind of chaotic time, so I'm really sad that we have to be dealing with this. I think the federal government has to prove their case, and I'm a big proponent of just criminal legal system. So innocence before guilt is tantamount. I think that's different than the question of, with all this happening, can you govern effectively? Can you help restore the trust that's being lost? That's a different question. So my hope is that the mayor will ask himself those questions, and if he feels he can, he should really put out a plan of how he thinks that can go forward. The time to put out that plan, I think, is the window's starting to close, and folks are just really concerned. And so my hope is that he really asks those questions to himself.
Okay, so you're this close to being mayor of New York City. You've always wanted that.
I've never said that. You have. But I actually ran for the job of public advocate.
Right.
And I'm very excited about that job. Now, being the public advocate, you know that this is a possibility. And so you always have to make sure you're prepared for that. But that's not why you take the job.
But you've never wanted to be mayor of New York City?
I've ran for every job that I've actually wanted to run for. And what I would say was this. I knew this was a possibility, excuse me, when I got elected. It's not something you want to have to happen, because that means there's been some chaotic times in New York City. But you have to prepare yourself, which we are.
Are you?
The most important thing is for New Yorkers to know that the Constitution for New York allows for continuity of government. And so I want to make sure that New Yorkers know that trash is going to be picked up, 301 is going to be answered, 911 is going to be answered. And that's, I think, what everyone should be concerned about. And I shout out to our tens of thousands of public sector workers who are making sure that happens today, and I know they're going to make sure that happens tomorrow as well.
You've been a vocal critic of the mayor for a long time, yet you have not called, and even this morning, for his resignation. Give us some insight into your thinking. Why not?
I think the position you have, first, you should have a little bit more responsibility of how you communicate. I'm also in the second, I'm in first in the line of succession. I think that's a heavy weight as well. And as I said before, doesn't matter who is being accused of something, the presumption of innocence is really tantamount to what we think of in our criminal legal system, regardless of who it is. But I do also want to say that the charges are pretty egregious, and they're a little more expansive than I even thought they would. And even with that, he has a right to defend himself. And so the federal government, I believe, has to prove their case. And that's separate from what I believe the mayor should be doing right now, which is saying, I have a plan, and this is how I believe I can continue under the weight of all this. I don't think that's happening, and deflecting and trying to wave it away is not that plan. And so my hope is that, from my vantage point, that's a very difficult thing to show that you can still do. But if you can, you need to begin saying that and showing that. And that's not what's happening right now, and I'm concerned about that.
What have you seen in City Hall while all these charges have been swirling, not only around the mayor, but we've seen so many other people in the administration? You talk about, can you be effective going forward? Has that affected how city government works the last couple of weeks?
There's a lot of concern, particularly the higher up you go, because there's a lot of confusion, a lot of chaos going on. And that's why I always shout out our public sector workers, because the trash was picked up. And the 301 and 911 calls are being answered. And so we want a bigger shout out to them. I think things are on autopilot, and that's how dedicated our workers are. But at some point, you have to have a pilot that can actually do the job. And that's why I focus on what is the plan to make sure that can happen. And if there is one, present it to the people of the city of New York. And if there isn't one, you need to ask and answer some very tough questions and really make decisions that are best for the people of the city of New York.
So you talked about the mayor's charges that he's facing right now. As a public official, I have to ask you, have you ever gotten an upgrade on an airline or on a hotel because you're a public official?
Well, thankfully, most people know I'm afraid of flying, so most of my travel is on the train. But I assume that the question would be the same for that. And the answer is just no. And there are so many expansive things in that indictment. It's a painful read.
Well, let me ask you this then. Have you ever taken money from a constituent who's called you and asked for a favor afterwards?
Have I taken money from constituents?
Yeah, of course. You get donations for your campaigns, right?
To my knowledge, I've never taken money from a constituent who has asked me for a favor. Those are two separate things and two
Okay.
separate conversations. I just want to be clear.
Okay, so explain that to me, because
so if someone talking about campaigning and campaign issues and someone talking about government are two separate conversations with two separate sets of people, and you have to make sure that those things happen
I
separately.
know, but politicians get donations, right? And those people who donate sometimes call in a favor.
Well, one, I like to prefer myself as an elected official, but two, you cannot receive money and then say you're going to do something with someone. Like the direct connection there is a problem. I'm also not going to try to adjudicate the case of what we read about. That's the federal government's job. My job is to make sure that folks know that there's a continuity of government and that all the services they have today are going to continue, hopefully get better.
Hey, quick question for you. Who's paying for his defense? I mean, he's the mayor of New York being charged with something, and then going back to de Blasio, the city wound up paying like $2 million to help defend him.
It's an important question. Again, it was expansive. It went back even further than I thought they were even looking at. It's a really good question. You know, if things were done while you're in public service, those are important questions depending what they were and when you did it. So it's an important question that people have a right to ask those questions.
Do we know the answer?
I don't know the full answer. My presumption right now will be at least part of it or a lot of it might be taxpayer money, but I don't think we know for sure. And again, that's, I think, some of the questions that need to be asked, particularly around whether the mayor has the ability to govern. That has nothing to do with innocence or guilt. It has to do with the weight of the moment that we're in right now.
So are you ready?
Am I ready?
Yeah.
I have always been prepared to do the job I applied for, and being public advocate means you have to be ready in case something happens. It's never happened, so we're in our uncharted territory. So the past few weeks, though, we've had to have more poignant conversations to make sure that continuity of government would occur in every eventuality, and we are prepared for every eventuality to make sure the services of government continue for the people of the city of New York.
All right, Jumaane Williams, public advocate. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Hopefully not the next mayor, because not that we care one way or another. We just don't want the city to go through this turmoil.
That's what we want to stop.
Yeah.
The chaos, the confusion.
Yep. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.